Welcome, Professor Rice, and all who might be watching this podcast. I'm Fenton Colt, and in this podcast, we're going to be going over Philadelphia, and unfortunately, its drug abuse problem. I grew up in a small town called Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is about 35 minutes away from the city. Originally, I was born in Ridley, PA, which is even closer to the city, about 15 minutes away. And in these places, I grew up with a very diverse background. Whether that's people surrounding me, people in school, people all around. I come from a very diverse place, and I'm proud of that. But one of the things that we would always hear when I was growing up is, how's the city going? Like, how's the city doing? It's going through this, it's going through that, it's going through all these different things, and that's something that I would just grow up hearing, honestly. Unfortunately, and one of the big towns that we would grow up hearing about is Kensington, PA. It is a town in the midst of Philadelphia, and it has had its problems recently. It's unfortunate, but it is home to the largest open-air drug market on the East Coast. Just this one little town in Philadelphia is open to the largest open-air drug market on the East Coast. It's very diverse, but it faces some of the nation's highest poverty rates, highest drug abuse problems, and just all these unfortunate crimes that are happening in this town. And according to the DEA, Philadelphia and more specifically, Kensington in 2022 to 2023 saw 1,315 unintentional, that being the keyword, unintentional overdose deaths in the city, which was the second highest death rate on record. Over 85% of these deaths were related to the drug called fentanyl. Additionally, by 2025, 87% of drugs in Philadelphia were found to be laced with, stay with me here, medetomidine. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's a substance increasingly replacing the more easily tracked xylazine in the city. And it's being paired with fentanyl and all these different drugs that are in Kensington. Kensington's long-standing drug epidemic shows no little sign of slowing. We'll get into that a little bit later in the podcast. And with the current trajectory of the fentanyl deaths, it seems unlikely that the problem will be resolved in a couple years. Once again, unfortunately, as someone who's seen this with my own eyes, it is hard. But we're going to be going into a little bit what that means, the culture, a little bit of everything in this podcast. So let's get into it. First, let's go into the culture of Kensington. Unfortunately, there's been a precedent culture that's been set that has been set for about 20 years across all ages of people, from new kids to older people, and this precedent being that drugs are just a part of their lives. This is a place where people come to get drugs. This is a place where people come to throw away their lives, honestly. And this is the culture that they have built and surrounded themselves with. And now getting out of this problem is hard because this culture has been set, and it's hard to grow out of that now that they've set it to what it is. Recently, when I was searching for articles to just quote in this podcast and put together, I found I wasn't really finding good accounts of what Kensington really is. And I came across one, and it was very, very good. It's written by Liam Foley, and it's titled The Kensington Nightmare, Open Your Eyes. It was about this man, and he was writing a paper on Kensington. He had never been there, and he wanted to go see what it was really about. And he wanted to go see what was really happening in the city. And unfortunately, Foley describes almost exactly what the social conflict theory is, but how it's actually inaccurate for Kensington. He says a lot of the things that Kensington he's heard about, and the conflicts being wrong about them, but the wrong in the social conflict theory in his eye is wrong about Kensington because it's underplayed. A lot of the times in the U.S. we like to overplay things, but to his eye he says this part of town was underplayed, and he went in and he was shocked. I wrote down a couple quotes to read. The first one is, "I promise you, whatever you've seen on Twitter or through the media, it is not doing it justice. The sheer amount of human suffering that was concentrated in just a few street blocks was overwhelming." Kensington's not a big place. it doesn't outreach crazy, but the town of itself, Kensington, does affect a lot of people. Second quote, this place felt like hell on earth, not just a drug zone, real, actual hell. I'll let you take from that what you will, but it's hard. Last and final quote that I'm going to go over with from Foley. He says, I wanted to understand why the mainstream media fails to capture Kensington in its rawest form. What I had just witnessed felt almost invisible to the rest of the world, something the media chooses not to show. It's just like what I just talked about the social conflict theory being wrong about this place. It's not like the rest of the world, Kensington, just as Foley says. People downplay it from the inside and from the outside. People downplay it from the inside because they want to be able to keep on getting their drugs because they're addicted. They can't get out. They don't want to get out when they're addicted. People downplay it from the outside because they don't want people to see what it has really become, how it has really affected people that are in this place. And that's why the social conflict theory is wrong, but also right on this part of town. It's just unfortunate that Kensington has gotten to that place. Now, as much as I just talked bad about Kensington, it has not always been like this. As I said, it's come past over the 20 years, and I want to take it back and how it got to this point. And this is kind of going to address the rational choice theory in a way. Maybe you haven't heard it talked like this because we're talking about the downward trajectory of this town. But once again, we've talked about Kensington not being normal. This town used to be thriving. It used to be a factory-built town. There's a lot of empty factories in Kensington. Hard-working class. And people were there making honest, good livings, doing very hard labor. That's what Kensington was known for, hard labor jobs that people pounded and got through. And unfortunately, that led from 1999 to 2011, an opioid overdose death rate quadrupling. This timing coincided pretty handily with the first detection of illicit pills containing fentanyl and fentanyl analogs. See, it's weird because fentanyl was first introduced in doctors' offices, and it was introduced as a pain medicine, and that's because it was 20 times stronger than morphine. 20 times. The same drug that is used to give people in World War II pain relief when they were dying. This fentanyl is 20 times stronger, and that was introduced in doctors' offices. Later, going on a little bit down those years, a drug by the name of carfentanil was introduced, which is basically a mixture of other drugs with the fentanyl. And according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, carfentanil is 10,000 times more potent than morphine. 10,000. 100 times more potent than regular fentanyl, and 50 times more potent than heroin. Heroin is 50 times more potent than that. And you were probably questioning me right now and how this relates to the rational choice theory. Well, I mentioned earlier how Kensington was filled with hard labor jobs, and people in these hard labor jobs were put through a lot of struggles with their body. And once again, fentanyl was first introduced as a pain drug. So these people working hard hours, hard labor jobs would go to their doctor's offices and they would want pain medication. They've been going through 80-hour weeks in these hard factories, and they just wanted to feel a little bit less pain. And that's when doctors started to give them fentanyl. Oh, here, use this, take a little bit of the pain off, and it's skyrocketed. And it's so unfortunate because this was just used as a painkiller. But the people of Kensington saw this and ruined their honest livings, their livelihoods, because of how addicted this drug was. They wanted to keep on feeling that no more pain. Alright, sorry about that. My camera cut out. Seems to be a trend with what's been happening with me. Unfortunately, I'm going to pick right back where I'm up. I might cut out again. We'll see. I'm going to try and do my best. I'm sorry. But as I was just saying, there's a domino effect. People are wanting to feel less pain, and this forces them into going to the doctor's office, getting more pain meds, and it's turned into what we've seen in Kensington now today. Now, our last subject that I'm gonna be talking on is the social cohesion of the city of Philadelphia and what it's done to help prevent these things that's been happening, because it is, how do I put this? It's very hard to change, especially when Kensington is at such a point at what it is. But recently, we have seen a good change. I've said so many bad things about Kensington. I'm going to start to say some good things about the city of Philadelphia. Mayor Cheryl Parker, on her first day of admission in 2024, put in a 100-day plan to permanently shut down all open-air drug market in the city of Philadelphia, and in Executive Order number 1 through 24. And just a couple of months later, she put out the multi-phase initiative comprised of citizen engagement, enforcement, and a restoration-based approaches to ensure the use of tactics to support prevention, intervention, and enforcement. During this time, the mayor also put just under 200%, I think it was 195% more police officers in the town of Kensington alone. And due to these tactics, we saw so many things drop in this past 2 years. Whether that was crime, whether that was drugs, whether that was anything in the city. And I'll give you a couple of statistics just to back it up. Kensington saw a 17% reduction. Awesome! Third time's the try. Okay, ready? I hope this doesn't stop. I've deleted so much stuff off my phone to try and record this. Here we go. I'm going to go faster to try and get it all in. As I was just saying, Kensington saw a 17% reduction in violent crime Kensington saw a 17% reduction in violent crime from 2023 to 2024. This all includes 45% reduction in homicide, 46% reduction in rape, 27% reduction in robbery with guns, 13% reduction in robbery with other weapons. Now, you may be saying, you've talked about all this time about fentanyl, car fentanyl, and how these drugs are affecting Kensington. Yes, I agree. However, less of one crime leads to less of another crime. Cleaning up the streets, no matter what, is amazing. And that will affect the culture of Kensington. Everything. Everything affects the drug market. Now, that being said, the drug market was also affected a lot past couple of years. So, let's go through the statistics from March through December 2024. These all include $387,000 in heroin/fentanyl mixture off the streets, $8 million in fentanyl off the streets, $845,000 doses, not dollars, doses of fentanyl removed from the drug market, 1,400 arrests, 265 buyers, and over 1,200 sellers gone off the streets, $350,000 in cash recovered. This all totals up to over $10 million in narcotics off the streets. People gone. This is going to affect the culture. This affects the whole entire town. See, Kensington's been through a lot through its time, and more than a lot of cities and towns will ever see in their whole entire time of existing. Kensington's been sheltered from the outside world, from the inside. It's been flipped on its head from people of the town, and the drug market, homelessness, and all this crime has affected everything over the past 30 to 40 years. And yet things are finally start to seeing change. Mayor Parker has done great things to this city. She's improved policing. She's improved all of this drug market. And yet, people still don't know about it. And this is what I'm trying to affect. I've written a paper on it. This podcast on it. I'm trying to get more people to know. The more people know, the more change can happen. I'm trying to do my part. I hope this podcast has been at least a little bit informative, so you can try and do your part as well. Get people to know. Spread the word, because change doesn't happen if people don't know about it. And that's the simple truth. And so once again, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I hope it's been informative, and I hope you can start to do your part. Thank you.